Guys, we are back at it again with the Freecodecamp algorithms, and today I'm going to help you solve the chunky monkey algorithm. So pretty basic. They want us to essentially take this argument of array, so this first argument, which is in this case is this array right here, and they want us to break it down into separate subarrays. So what's going to determine how many subarrays we break it down into is this second argument of size here. So in this case, it's going to be 2. So we're going to have an array, and we're going to have 2 subarrays within that. So pretty straightforward. Let's jump into it. And in order to solve this, we're going to be using a while loop. However, with the while loop, unlike the for loop, it does not have a counter variable built in. So we have to write that separately. So let's start by doing that. So we're going to do var counter, and we're going to set that equal to 0, which is our start point. And we also want to set up a new array in which we're going to be pushing the subarrays that we have. So let's set that up as well. So var new array, and we're going to set that equal to just an empty array so we can push our subarrays into that. So now that we have our counter and we have our new array, we can start setting up the while loop. And just like a for loop, it takes a condition, and the condition that we want to check for is we want to check to see rather if counter is less than array.length, if I can spell. So we're checking to see if our counter variable, which is this, is less than the length of our array. So in this case, we're going to use this one for the base case, and the length of our array is going to be 4. So if this condition is true, then we want to execute some code. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to take our new array, and we want to push something into that new array. And we want to push the subarrays into our new array. And if you're not familiar with the push method, all it does is it takes an argument of, or rather it chains on to a array, and whatever argument you pass into it, it adds on to the array. So we're going to take, or rather we're going to push our argument of array, and we're going to slice the array. And by now we've gone over slice. However, if you're not familiar with it, all it does is it takes an argument, or rather it takes 2 arguments, a start point and an end point, and it slices at the endpoint but does not include the endpoint. So for this case, we want our start point to be our counter, which is 0 for this iteration, and we want our endpoint to be our counter plus size, which is 2 for this example. Now, we're going to have our counter variable start at 0. So it's going to start here, and it's going to go all the way up to 2, because remember, arrays are 0 based. So 0, 1, 2, but it's not going to include this 2. So it's just going to have this portion of the array for the first iteration. Now this is fine. However, if we leave it like this, it's going to be an infinite loop, because remember, our counter is still 0. So we have to actually set our counter equal to counter plus size. And what this is doing is essentially just taking our counter, which is our base point, our start point, and it's adding it essentially with size. In this case, it's 2. So remember, our first iteration counter is 0. Once that runs, for the second iteration, is going to be 2. So the second time around, This is no longer 0. This is going to be 2 now. It's going to check for this condition. Counter is still less than array.length because remember array.length is 4. So 2 is still less than 4. And we're going to take our new array and we're going to push our array.slice. So now counter is 2. So counter is here now. It's at C, the 2 index. And we're going to take our endpoint, which is counter plus size. And size is still 2 as well. So now this is 4. So it's going to go all the way up to 4. And we're going to take our counter once more. And we're going to set it equal to counter plus size. So we're going to add 2 to our counter. Because remember, our counter now for this iteration is 2. And then we're going to add 2 on top of that. So now we have 4. We're going to run through the iteration one more time. So now that our counter is 4, this is no longer true. And our while loop ceases to run because this condition is no longer true. So this should work, and we should have 2 subarrays now. So let's run this and check to see if it worked. Looks like we had an issue here. So let me take a look at the code. Give me 1 second. Oh, we just simply want to return our new array. That's what it is. So we want to return our new array so that we can expose it to the global scope. So let's run this. Awesome, so it worked. But that's it, guys. If you had trouble understanding this algorithm, go back, replay the video, lower the speed until you actually understand what's going on here, because that's the only way you're going to improve in your code. But if this was helpful, definitely go down and leave a comment, like the video, and definitely subscribe. Thanks, guys.